Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Municipal Council special meeting of Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. Everybody, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Coyle.
Here.
Councilmember Deal.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
Councilmember Joshi.
Present.
Councilmember Lombardi.
Here.
Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Sandelsky.
Here.
Adequate notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by special notice published in the Home News Tribune and the New India Times on June 28, 2019, and Post-Domain Lobby Missile Complex on that same date.
Clerk, please read the proposed ordinance.
Proposed ordinance submitted by initiative petition filed pursuant to NJSA 40:69A-184 on June 3, 2019, to amend Chapter 27 Water and Sewer section of the Township Code of General Ordinances and providing for the retention by the Township of the ownership, operation, management, control, and maintenance of its municipal water and sewer deemed to have been introduced for first reading as set forth in NJSA 40:69A-190 on June 23rd, with a public hearing to be scheduled at the council on or before July 15, 2019.
Thank you. I will now open it up to the public for comments on the ordinance.
Bob at Villa 20 O'Hara Street. Again, I've been to a bunch of meetings and totally against privatizing the water system. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I sent everybody on the council an email where I sketched out a budget based on the 2017 numbers in the township's audit report for the sewer utility. And I had you borrowing $3 million at 3% for 20 years. And projecting those numbers out, borrowing $3 million, what I said in my email was that you could fix 2 pump stations a year and continue to do that and only raise the rates 3%. I seen that at the last meeting we're already planning to raise the rates 4.9% for the sewer utility. In that packet that I sent you, I also included a financial statement from a sewage authority in New Jersey that operates a collection system with 14 pump stations. They operate their system, that entire system, with about 22 employees, an executive director, staff, billing, collection. It costs them about $2.5 million a year. So I'm just saying, think before you vote on this resolution. Again, I'm against privatization. It's doable for the town to run the system cheaper than Suez is going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on the ordinance? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Ann Hennessy, Carmelo Drive. I am here to say I don't want this referendum. When you sit down and you calculate the fact that this township has not run either fully the water or sewer department for more than 20 years, you're lacking staff. You're lacking administrative staff. You're lacking building facilities to store the equipment. You don't have all of the equipment you're going to need. And with the new changes from both the state and the County Utility Association, your pipes are different. I'm asking you to take all of that into consideration. I've lived here 50 years. I started with Middlesex Water Company off of Sutton's Lane, who then sold it off to American Water. The water system has not changed. There's been no lead. If there's lead, it's minuscule. If you've got lead, it's possible it's coming from your own pipes that are anywhere between 50 and 63 years old in the area where I live off of Sutton's Lane. And that's why I encourage everybody to buy their own insurance for the pipes from the house to the street. It's a minuscule amount of money, but it protects you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Diamarin.
Anthony Diamarin, 15 Rodex Circle. I don't know, I don't speak for everybody, but there is really no minuscule amount of money to a lot of people out there. I think The council has heard all the arguments. There's really nothing left to be said, to be quite honest with you. And I look at today as a day where we could all start new, and everybody wins. Everybody wins. 99.99% of the people of this town, I believe, do not want this deal. Those 5,000 signatures really represent 15,000 signatures, as I said last time. We just ran out of time. And I don't believe not one of you ever came out and fully supported the deal. So it's not like you're flip-flopping even politically. This is an opportunity for all of us to really be united on this one issue, start afresh, and really get to work regarding putting together a system that's going to work to keep it publicly owned and operated. And that's going to take a lot of work. And to save the taxpayer money down the road for a special election. So I think we know the arguments. The people don't want it. They truly don't. And I really am hopeful that this board's going to do the right thing tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hahn.
Keith Hahn, 81 Fairview Avenue. I just want to make a couple things clear tonight. The 5,000 residents who signed the petition signed a petition to ensure that our water and sewer utilities remained publicly owned and operated tonight. When you guys vote tonight, a yes vote will be siding with those 5,000 residents who signed the petition to ensure the water and sewer remain publicly owned and operated. A no vote will be disregarding the will of those 5,000 people and putting it to a referendum, which would probably be sometime in September and cost about $100,000. When I went and met with Mayor Lanke about 2 weeks ago, he conceded that if this does go to a referendum, it would lose 5-1. So if you guys vote no and push this to the referendum, you're only wasting another 3 months that you've been claiming we don't have, where you could be working to put a plan in place, get bonding in place, and start fixing the infrastructure right away. So I would ask each and every one of you to vote yes tonight and ensure our water and sewer utility remain publicly owned and operated. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments on the ordinance. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Laura Scarola, 4 Longview Road. I spoke last time that we met, and I found a lot of problems with the contract that was submitted to the Township of Edison, which was submitted last June of 2018. So when it was presented to us originally just to go over the rate schedule, you know, we were told there's this fixed rate, 4.9, 4.5, 3.5, but that wasn't the case. There's also other components of the rate. And I have the rate schedule, and I know I went over this. I'm not sure if everybody was here, but just to reiterate, in section 5.1, line, let's see, 5.1A, line 6, it says the revenue amount must be, this is the minimum, 11%. The other components of the rate amount consist of rate adjustments. Every year there's an annual rate adjustment. There's, I didn't mention it last time, but there's a stabilization fund. So they have to have a certain amount of money just to provide in case of emergency. They can't in any way, shape, or form be out of money, out of profit. You're dealing with 4 for-profit companies running our township water and sewer. And in case the people in North Edison think that they're not tied to the water in American Water, the South Edison area, according to this contract, when the water treatment division loses money, where do you think they get it according to the contract? They get it from the sewer customers. So 11% is the minimum. You have all these extra bills and charges and miscellaneous charges. You have, this is very disconcerting to me, 48 hours notice to inspect your pipes. Every time I've read about the lawsuits against Suez, it turns out one of the biggest things is that they overcharge for and they have misapplied billings. And so the town's going, well, we don't know about this bill. And they go, oh yeah, we have this many pipes, this many, and everything is not to be understood. And then what you have is overbilling, constant. Well, of course, you have for-profit companies that need to make money. Of course they're going to have overbilling. So now you can't even inspect. I mean, the way I look at it, imagine if I hire a contractor, they come to my house and I sign some kind of paper, oh, I'm not inspecting the work for 48 hours. They leave, their taillights are gone, and I don't get to inspect. I don't think so. So how much more the township, our water, this is affecting every single resident, the businesses. We're all affected. Okay, so this whole concept, why do you think they have 48 hours notice? So that you can't inspect it for that very purpose. In fact, in the contract it says, except if you can prove there's any type of misconduct. How can you prove it? You're not there. So what do you get? Some kind of material list that says, oh, this is what we used. Well, they need to make revenue, folks. This is a scam, okay? So that's one thing. There should never even be a notice. I had explained last time for the people who weren't there, 4 levels, different companies. Edison Environmental is the 4th company. What they have done is they have provided themselves with level after level of insulation against litigation. In fact, they formed in Delaware. I know I mentioned this for the people who don't know. That's another wall of insulation against litigation. You don't get a trial by jury, you get a judge. The judge looks at the contract just like he did for Middletown, and he says, oh, I see you have a resolution clause, which is what we have, dispute resolution. We're stuck disputing and resolving issues ourselves. It's like going into a battle against a company. Companies that are armed to the teeth, for profit. These are international, national companies, multi-billion dollars, okay, against the township of Edison. They're going in armed to the teeth. We have water pistols, and they have the rights to our water, okay? It's really bad. On top of that, we can't get out of the contract. They can get out of the contract for any reason whatsoever. And then they can charge us termination fees and anything, since we're the ones holding the debt and they're supposed to be paying the debt, they charge us fees on top of fees. The charges are astronomical. This isn't just a bad deal, this is the worst deal you could possibly imagine. So, no, it's not in the interest of the people. When I speak for myself, I speak for the people of the township. I mean, if you need to have another meeting and go over detail, I'll sit here for 2 hours and go over this with you. There's so much to go over that's wrong with this contract. This is very bad for the Township of Edison. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President?
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify that, and I said this in a Facebook video that was sent out yesterday, this ordinance that we are voting on tonight is not the Suez contract. The Suez contract is not up for vote tonight. What we are voting on tonight, to add clarification, is specifically the ordinance that the petitioners had put together. So, just to be clear, if the council votes yes to this ordinance that the petitioners put together, then the question that's essentially posed is whether the township should publicly own and operate the sewer and water utilities. So a yes vote would essentially negate Suez. A no vote would allow it to go to a public referendum. I just want to be clear for any speaker that comes up, we are not talking about the Suez referendum tonight, or Suez vote tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Any Edison residents? Mr. Romero.
Good evening, Council President. My name is Junior Romero. I'm at 100 Bayard Street in New Brunswick. I'm with Food and Water Watch, the statewide environmental group, and one of the lead supporters of the citizen petition you will be voting on later tonight. Food and Water Watch champions clean water for all. We stand up to corporations that put profits before people and advocate for a democracy that improves people's lives and protect our environment. Over the last few months, the citizens of Edison stood up to the French company Suez and some township politicians' attempt to fast-track the 40-year privatization scheme of Edison's public water and sewer systems. The public has become proficient in what privatization would mean for ratepayers, for loss of local control and accountability, and how they were being tracked in some corporate boardroom as a figure in a profit margin, instead of as an Edison resident who just wants clean drinking water, adequate service, and a good fiscal future for their town. Edison residents mobilized and gathered close to 5,000 signatures from their neighbors, friends, family, fellow patrons at a house of worship, in front of ShopRite, in the rain and in the hot sun. They did this all in 1 month. I worked on and studied ballot initiative gathering efforts over the years and have rarely seen one as grassroots and deeply felt as this effort to keep Edison's water and sewer utilities in public hands, stop privatization in any form, and say no to Suez. Petition signers and circulators were driven by the higher rates they would pay under privatization with Suez, potentially as high as $250 more per year. They were concerned about the loss of accountability if Edison privatized, with no legally binding guarantee that Suez had to address public concerns or hear them at all. They were furious that the town would even consider entering a 40-year agreement with Suez after keeping the scheme secret for close to 3 years, or without any guarantee of exit from the privatization scheme if things went downhill, as we've seen with too many towns in Suez before. Representative democracy is not an easy one. Your predecessors before chose to enter into a multi-decade privatization effort with American Water in what once was a fully publicly owned Edison water system. Now American Water has been operating on a month-to-month basis, and their contract runs out at the end of this year. The rate shock Edison residents just received this week is a testament to what privatization brings, and it will continue to happen if the council keeps the door open to privatization. Higher rate increases without public accountability or input, taxation without representation. I'm a strong believer in representative democracy, and I hope that each council member up here, Councilman Bob Deal, President Alvaro Gomez, Councilman Ajay Patil, Councilman Leonard Sandelsky, Councilman Sam Joshi, and Councilman Michael Lombardi will vote yes today alongside the near 5,000 Edison voters who presented this petition to you. If a majority of this council votes no and wishes to send the issue of privatization to the ballot, I urge you to consider this. Assuming we see a turnout of 8,000 voters in a special election in late summer, which is a high projection at that, make no mistake that we will turn out the near 5,000 people that signed the petition, and we'll have even more time to reach thousands more voters. You have an opportunity to begin to heal the deep wounds that the Suez privatization scheme has opened in your community. You can start to heal those wounds today by voting yes on the citizen petition to keep Edison's water and sewer in Edison control, not Suez control, and stop any privatization. Let's use the $100,000 or so this council would spend on a special election towards Edison's water and sewer systems instead. I hope you will make the right decision. For those with blue signs or that want the council to keep Edison's water in public control, please raise your hands or raise your signs. These are your constituents. These are the people that want you to vote yes. So I urge you to do the right thing. Let's heal the wounds now. Let's get this over with and vote yes. Thank you.
Anybody else on the ordinance? Sir?
Good evening. Akhtar Nasser, 59 Pleasant Avenue. I'm asking these questions for somebody who was unable to attend at this moment. So one of the questions that he has, this is John Pointer's questions, by the way. Since the ordinance does not state Middlesex Water Company water agreement, does that present any potential loopholes in how the ordinance can be interpreted?
Yeah, that would require me to get into a hypothetical that candidly I have resisted for my 6 years serving as an attorney here. But I will say to you, my review of this ordinance says that while this ordinance is in effect, the town can do nothing but operate its water and sewer utilities. Somebody may in the future disagree with me on that, but that's the way I read the ordinance.
Okay. Next question is, the sewer language does not include control or maintenance in the description. Does that present future privatization/private partnership opportunities in those aspects?
I disagree with Mr. Pointer that that's what it says. I think it's pretty clear that it's, if I don't have it, I do have it in front of me. It says operate, maintain. It's pretty expansive. Let me find the exact language. Ownership and commence the operation, management, control, and maintenance of the township's municipal water and all extensions, improvements together with all services related to such purposes. I don't see any mealy-mouth language there.
Okay, and the final question is, if American Water decided to renew or extend its agreement, would this still be an opportunity to look at, and he has in parentheses, it states, in quotations, subject to no additional renewals or extensions, end quote, under 27-1.1?
Just to be clear, Mr. Pointer is the chairman of the Environmental Commission in Edison? Is that the same Mr. Pointer we're talking
Yes.
about? Okay. I'm very uncomfortable asking hypotheticals, but I want to just be sure that you have the information. The way this is written, if this ordinance were to be adopted this evening or to be voted in at a subsequent election, when the New Jersey American contract ended, there would be no ability to contract with New Jersey American to continue the operation regardless of the need for that if it were to arise.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else on the ordinance? Anybody else on the ordinance? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I'm here to propose to you that you vote yes. I moved to Edison 36 years ago when our population was much smaller. When I moved into my home, I have Middlesex County water. I never had Edison water. I have P&P disposal. I never had township garbage. And I always felt when I moved in, what was Edison doing for me? Now you're saying you want to privatize even more. What are we paying our taxes for? Our taxes have gone up dramatically in the years since I've moved in. So therefore, your services have been lacking, obviously, if you feel you're incapable of handling the sewer and the water on your own. What you need to do is look into yourself. We are not a small suburban community any longer, and Edison needs to decide, do we want to farm out everything, or do we want to be a responsible community that takes care of its residents? I really feel that maybe you've been lacking in past years taking care of things, and now it's gotten to a point where you can't handle it. Well, I'm not going to accept that. You need to step up and take care of our community, and not by farming out another company in addition to all the companies that you've already farmed out. And I truly wish that you step up, say yes, and then look into your departments to see where they need to step up. If it means hiring somebody knowledgeable enough to handle this problem, then do it. At least I can turn around and say, my taxes are going for a purpose. Please, think about what you're doing. There's 5,000 people that want you to truly think about it. Now, when I signed the petition, I signed it to make you guys think that we don't have to have a special referendum. You will make this decision and make the right decision. Thank you.
Anybody else on the ordinance? Sir? You may come up.
Council President?
Remember to get me last on the first time.
Yes, Councilman
Council
Coyle.
President, I just wanted to, is this working? Okay. I just want to clarify, Councilman Sam Joshi talked about tonight you're voting on the referendum and not the contract. He's right, but if you choose to state your case to persuade the council here to vote differently. That's what your job is as a resident. I thank all of you for the time you put into this in the petition, and you know where I stand. I think we're at a pivotal vote here. So I know we're only voting on the referendum, but to me, you're voting on the contract indirectly. So, I mean, if you're here to persuade the council, do so. I understand that it's the referendum you're voting on, and Councilman Joshi is correct, but this is your time to persuade the council where you stand and the fact we will be spending additional money and the time will be ticking for no reason. This is something I feel was poorly done from the beginning, and it should have been explored differently. I just want to state my case so you continue to speak if you need to, and you persuade us to vote differently. Thank you.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Paul Gadomski, 22 Brookside Road. I just have a technical question on the ordinance. If I understood the attorney correctly, if the ordinance is adopted tonight, it means we cannot hire American Water to continue with the operations of the system. Is that correct?
Beyond the agreement that's currently in place, which expires December 31, 2019.
Okay, so on New Year's Day, this ordinance passes tonight, on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2020, what happens with the water system?
It will have to be run by the township.
Okay, so the thought process would be, can we be ready to take over that responsibility in such a short notice?
That's a very good question.
So then, would it behoove the council to possibly, and I don't know if we can legally do this, is to add wording into the new ordinance that can prevent safe running of the water system?
No, the law is very clear. There's not a thing that can be added to this ordinance. You can't change a word. When the people who signed the petition to ask to initiate this ordinance, it's an initiative petition, when they signed it for specific wording in the ordinance. So if we were to try to change something in it, it would be null and void.
Okay, so then, in subsequent council meetings from tonight, if this ordinance was to pass, can you legally act to have somebody operate the system in the event January 1st comes around and the township cannot safely run the water system?
The way the law is written, I believe there is a 4-year moratorium on council taking any action on this ordinance. So this ordinance, if it became effective this evening, would be effective. I think there still will be a 20-day estoppel period to allow anyone to challenge, but assuming there was no challenge, it would be effective July 30 and would remain effective until July 29, 2023 is the earliest that the council can take action to, to change the ordinance or to repeal it.
So then, how would the residents of the town be able to act to make sure that we have a safe water system? Would we have to petition again? Or, again, this is something for thought that the gentleman brought up a good point. And now my question is, okay, contract ends, we wake up January 1st, we turn the faucet, what happens?
The township will be running the water system.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the ordinance? Anybody else? Sir? Mr. Muscola?
Good evening, Wayne Mascola, 16 Gates Place. Just a simple question. If the township, you guys up here, pass the ordinance tonight, yes, can the mayor veto it?
That came up, Mr. Muscola, that came up the last meeting. I don't know that it's ever been challenged. I don't know if the issue's ever been brought, but my review of the way the statute's written and similar to what the questions this gentleman just asked, can you change it? I don't see that the mayor would have the opportunity to veto it, and if the mayor were to veto it, then it would just go to an election. The statute speaks to if the ordinance is not passed, then a special election shall, if requested, shall be held not less than 40 nor later than 60 days after the 10-day period within which the petitioners could withdraw. But there's also a 10-day period for the mayor to veto. So even if the mayor were to veto it, it would still go back to, it would just appear on the ballot.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Sir?
Good evening. My name is Raj Pandya, 20 Arbor Circle. I have a actually request more than a question is, while voting for yes or no tonight, can 100,000 odd residents of Edison know that why councilmen are voting yes and no? Can I request that to spell out so that we know your thought process as well while voting yes or no?
There's a portion of council comments before the vote. So council members will have the opportunity to speak on it.
Yeah, I mean, especially somebody saying yes, I would request him or her to say why and no why.
Yeah, you may request, and every council member will have the opportunity. It's up to the individual to make a statement.
That's my request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? First-time speakers? Sir?
How many minutes do I have?
Name and address, please.
Christos, 14 Fox Road.
You have 6 minutes.
All right. That's media privileges? I don't get any extra?
No, sir.
All right. I don't like France. I don't like the
Sir, this is specific on the public hearing.
Suez is a French company.
Okay.
I don't like multinational companies. They're globalists. I want them out of America. We can have our own township. No need to pay extra pensions. We can pay our own township employees. In Highland Park, they're already putting fluoride in the water, which is poisoning everybody. Fluoride, it's a byproduct of aluminum, which it's so poisonous they don't put it in anything else except us. So I want no fluoride in the water, and say no to Suez. There's no air conditioning when I come in here, all right? I'm sweating when I walk in here. There's no trash.
Specifically public hearing on the ordinance only, sir.
All right, so I can keep talking about France?
You can keep talking about the proposed ordinance.
All right. I agree with everyone in here that says no with France, and if you guys vote against the people, then you just won't get reelected next time. It's up to you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Ms. Shep.
Joyce Ship Freeman, 41 South Main Street. I'm kind of puzzled now. If your plan A that you only thought about, Suez, that's all you ever cared about, doesn't work, you guys never had a plan B. So you planned on, I'm not going to use that word, you planned on doing us in and just like, hey, if y'all don't go with what I say, y'all going to scramble around and see how the water, and see how you like the water come January. And we voted for y'all to be very responsible people, and the mayor. I'm very disappointed in that behavior, that you would care that much about the citizens who put you there, that you don't care that they would scramble around in January and not be assured of how their water would be.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Ann Pershner, 77 Winthrop Road. I would just like to express my concern that I don't know why we can't just keep Edison water And anything that goes wrong, we can have consultants, anybody that can step in and help out. We do not need that Suez water system. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Jenna Cutsforth, 198 Plainfield Road. I'm going to keep this quick. I found out about these proceedings very, very recently, and I urge the councilman to vote yes on this ordinance. And I know that many, many people who unfortunately cannot be here due to late notice or no notice at all about the fact that we could be privatizing out our systems to Suez would very much agree with me. And the fact that we already got 5,000 votes on 5,000 signatures on this petition, and yet there are so many residents of Edison that don't even know that this is happening. And so many residents of Edison that I know that would also be against Suez and would also urge the councilman to vote yes. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No one else? Do I have a motion? Yes, sir.
William Lim, 11 Western Avenue. I'm a little puzzled by what I've heard this evening. I haven't been to, I was planning on coming to the previously scheduled public meeting, which was canceled. But I'm a little concerned and puzzled with what I've heard this evening from both members of the council and some of the proponents of this petition. Mainly what one of the previous speakers said about the contingency plans for our water going forward past January 1, 2020, or on January 1, 2020, after the current contract runs out. What is the plan B if we don't go to the Suez contract? Does the township have contingencies in place for, I mean, if this ordinance passes, then you have less than 6 months, basically, to get a municipal water and sewer operation up and running to replace New Jersey American Water or whatever else comes. I'm a little concerned about that. I'd like to hear what the contingency planning is, and if proponents of the petition have an idea on that, I'd certainly love to hear that as well. I take no position on the ordinance. I'm just a concerned citizen that happens to want some information about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? One-time speakers only, sir. Do I have a motion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Chris Rose of 79 Wooding Avenue. I'm just trying to understand, the attorney said there are no changes to whatever the wording is. No amendments?
No, the statute was written very purposely and I think correctly.
Okay.
The petitioners go out, they have a certain concept, they have a certain idea, they want the ordinance written a certain way, and so they write it, and they present it to the council, and that's called an initiated ordinance. If council were to have the ability to take the ordinance and start to change it, they could, in a lot of ways, effectively gut the ordinance and kind of ignore the will of the people who signed the petition in the first place. So the whole purpose is for the council to consider what they wrote and either act on it or put it out to the people, the population of the voting population of a town, to vote on it. So that's the whole purpose for not allowing any amendment to be made, because if you made it, you and I might agree that the amendment is meaningless, but someone else who signed the petition might think that there was a very significant change, and they don't want that change. And who's going to resolve that dispute?
I think the people could resolve that dispute in a way. If you have an amendment, now they have kind of a choice, I would think, because that would be the alternative, maybe the plan B, right? Because you haven't really answered some of the questions of what's the alternative, what's the plan B. So if there's an amendment there, it could be argued that it could go this way or that way, and it would be a democratic way of kind of resolving a situation, as opposed to just almost imposing those words on us, because what choice do we have? And that's the issue, I think.
I understand, sir, and I'm telling you what the statute says. Petitioners chose
Sure.
to put it this way. This is the way the petitioners want it written. We don't have, this council does not have the ability to change it according to state law as it's currently written. So, you can agree with that or disagree with that, but that's what it is.
I guess we just have to figure a way as the residents how to correct that, right?
You can, I mean, that's basically, it's either the ordinance is going to be accepted or
Yeah, 'cause
rejected.
it's a little frustrating, and I could hear some of the residents here, their concerns, so, so just keep that in mind. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Richard Brescher, 868 Grove Avenue, Edison. I really came up, I wasn't planning on speaking, but after hearing everybody's concerns as to what was going to happen come January 1, I believe it's not up to you as the council, but it's up to the administration and the mayor to make sure that the township residents get all the services that they're supposed to have. Whether they hire people or they come up and they bring a company and hire all their people, or whatever it is, it's their responsibility to do it. So I don't go to sleep at night worrying that the mayor is not going to pick up my garbage, and I'm not going to go to and lose any sleep, let's say tomorrow night, thinking that he's not going to take care of my water. I believe that the people are speaking, the people are going to vote, or you're going to vote, and at the end of the day, the administration is going to make sure that we have water. But I didn't hear any council people say that we believe that you're going to have water. I'd like to hear the council people tell us that they do believe the administration is capable of delivering water to the residents in Edison, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Oops. Maria Wise, 33 Parch Place. I wasn't planning on speaking, like Mr. Brescher, but I noticed a lot of people are asking about a Plan B. One of the steps that you take when problem solving is finding solutions, but you always find an alternative because that's what you weigh your options on, your choices, and your ultimate decision is based on the other options. So I haven't heard an answer about a Plan B. So my question and concern is this isn't a new topic. This has been going on for quite some time. It's been discussed, I want to say 2 years, but I don't know. So my question really is, if we don't have a Plan B, why don't we? We're the 5th largest municipality in the state, but we still operate like we're a small town. We should, being the 5th largest municipality, have resources available to us where we can withstand our own operations within our town without asking outside private companies, please come help us, please do this for us, because we can't. So my question to you folks tonight is, why don't we have a Plan B?
This is only public comments on the ordinance. Council members will have the opportunity to give their own comments after we close the public portion.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Sir?
Ralph Scarola, 4 Longview Road. I would just like to make a point. We keep talking about Plan B. I just want to point to the council members, whether you vote yes or no. If you vote yes and it goes through, that's fine. If you vote no and you want to put it through, I'm going to recommend this council, you start a Plan B tomorrow, because it will be shot down. This will not go through. The sentiment in this town, I work in this town, and everybody is going to, it's not going to be a 5-to-1 like the mayor said. I guarantee you, you're going to have a lot more than 5,000 people voting against us. I just want to make that point to you, just by the people I talk to all over. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I have a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to council comments. Start from my right, Councilman Coyle.
Council President, council colleagues, I urge us to vote yes on this ordinance tonight. I thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. I thank all of you who've gotten involved in the petition signing. In the history of politics in my life, and since the late 80s, early 90s, I've never seen an organic movement like this before. And this is all you that did this. It wasn't the council, it was you that put this together and had it circulated. I've been there at the signings. I couldn't believe the turnout. You made those calls, you put it out on social media, and the public just didn't want it. From day one, most people will say I was against this. From day one, I was against this. And by day 5, it was a fact, it was something we did not look into properly. As all of you know, I brought tons of homework that we were all given that no one council person could possibly read in the short time we had. The concession agreement itself had a lot of liability against the Township of Edison. And the responsible party was always the Township of Edison. Suez was here to make money. We were here to lend them $851 million to do the work that was needed to be done in Edison. I'm confident that the town can hire people. I'm confident that we can recruit people in Edison and do a good job. And most of all, you've made a decision to elect us into office here. Signing a deal like this would never give you the opportunity to elect us out of office. You would be stuck with this deal for 40 years, 480 months, 14,000 days, and none of us on this dais could do anything about it. Each of us know that the concession agreement had many other obstacles in there. They claimed there was an oversight committee. The oversight committee had zero discretion, zero decision-making. It strictly stated that in there. And from the beginning, that was a thought that we'd have some discretion and we'd have that. We didn't. So from day one, this was a problem. I think we should have had a shorter plan from the beginning. I'm not sure where the administration was going with this. To sit down and think that the town would allow a 40-year deal, I just don't know where that came from. I would have been open to a 5-year deal. I would have been open to a 10-year deal. I would have been open to a combination of leasing and operating. The history of Edison in the early 90s, we ran the water. I remember when we leased the water for 20 years during the Spador administration. I remember the amount of people that were in the room that day, and I think some of you who were in this room could remember that day. To lease for 40 years sewer and water was a complete disaster for Edison. And I think it would have went like a runway train for us. It would have been a problem. And most of all, we would have never had true oversight on the spending. And it would have been like going to a car dealership and being, overcharged. So I was against it from the beginning. Today, I'm asking our council to vote yes for this, for the reason we need to get started, to come together and unite to know that this was just poorly done. It was a mistake by the administration, assuming that we wouldn't catch this, assuming that we wouldn't read this, assuming we would not dig this deep and dive into this. And we did. And all of you are here completed that mission. And the community has spoken. For us to go forward and put it on a ballot at a special election makes no sense to me, because you know where that's going. It's going to be a waste of time. It's going to be money we don't need to spend. There are many council people up here that could use $100,000 to different corners of the community to improve things. I would hope we can use that money towards something else. Today, our budget's going to be approved shortly. We're going to be going over that at the end of this month. I couldn't get $30,000 to hire an economic development coordinator. I couldn't get an extra DPW worker to work in the section of Clara Barton, which is, quote, our downtown. To spend $100,000 just doesn't make sense to me when the community has spoken. The job was not done properly. I can understand the direction of what the mayor was trying to do, trying to put this into someone else's hands to control it for us. But the concession agreement speaks for itself. We would have been fully responsible. It says in this contract we'd be responsible for maintenance. As part of the new code of the water system, you have to turn valves. Every valve that's turned that breaks, we would be responsible for. there's 26% of the mapping is unknown. And it strictly says in there, any piping that's hit would be our responsibility. So Suez had a wonderful deal here to take the taxpayers' money and this loan and do very well, where we would be the problem at hand. So I'm hoping our council here will just come forward, do the right thing. We're probably one vote away from moving this and moving forward. Today I'm working on what I can propose to the mayor and administration, and the mayor's had many conversations with me and others here. I'm assuring you will have safe drinking water. Today we currently get our water from Middlesex and American Water. Our water is filtered through a process that has nothing to do with us. It's been delivered to us for years through these two locations. I believe we can do this. It's going to take time. We're going to have to put our heads together. It's going to be transparent that we get involved. There's no other alternative. This deal has sunk. This ship has sank. It's over. So I hope we can get started. I hope our council will unite together and vote yes to just move forward and push this through. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Council members, we don't want to apologize. We don't have to go in any specific order, so.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out tonight. I agree with a lot of what's been said tonight and what's been said over the past several weeks. I applaud the petitioners for going out and getting 4,900 signatures. That's a wonderful thing. I said months ago that I am not against referendum or ballot questions. I think it's a good idea. I think that there are questions about a Plan B which absolutely have to be put in place. I think there's a little bit of confusion about what actually this is about. This is very complicated. So I am going to vote no tonight so that we have the opportunity to bring it to the full township. And in that period of time between now and that vote, that we get as much real information out there as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please. Other council members?
Council President?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for the robust discussion that we've had today and at the previous public meetings. People have been bombarded with a lot of information on a big decision that our town will have to live with for many years. I respect everyone's hard work in putting this petition together, as Councilman Deal said and Councilman Coyle also said, getting the legwork and the signatures that were required for a public referendum. I decided early on that if the facilitators and circulators, Keith Hahn, A.J. Patil, Anthony Diamarin, and Joe Coyle, received the signatures necessary for a referendum, then I would support the people of Edison and vote for a public referendum. It is important to remember that there are 59,000 registered voters in Edison. A public referendum will allow all of their voices to be heard. I am appalled that now, after all this, these same council people seek to override 59,000 registered voters of Edison. No. 7 council people should not be making this decision. We should not be circumventing the taxpayers. I will not support...
Sir. Please. I'm not going to ask you one more time, please. Respect the council chambers.
I will not support an end run. I will not support an end run around the voters of Edison. 2 key elected supporters of this petition are now trying to undermine those signatures that they received and ask that 4,900 signatures supersede the 59,000 registered voters of Edison. This is not democracy. Having spoken to people around town, they are still confused as to what the cost of this petition to the taxpayers will be. Why would you sign away your rights and options? People in North Edison told me they're happy with Middlesex Water Company. Please don't change it. Obviously, they don't know that it doesn't affect their water in the North End. The 12,000 people in the South Edison that have Edison water and will bear the burden of the costs to initiate a new water department told me that they're relatively happy with the way it is now with New Jersey American Water, and were scared by misinformation and disinformation about what the proposed Suez plan was. They were being told that lead was going to be in the water, even though the supply and distribution would remain the same. But they didn't know that nor were they told that, probably intentionally left out of the loop. People need to know that if the township keeps the water system in-house, these startup costs, personnel and benefits costs, engineering costs, repair costs, and emergency repair costs, and setting up pipe replacement costs, equipment costs, supply costs, meter replacement, and setting up a billing department will be astronomical for the 12,000 taxpayers that use Edison water. Incidents like this past weekend's water main break will start to become more prevalent, and there won't be New Jersey American Water Company to call anymore. It will all be Edison's problem to deal with, the ongoing emergency repairs and improvements that are vitally necessary to ensure our water supply needs moving forward. Make no mistake, the anti-fact and disinformation campaign was politically motivated and executed by Patil, Coyle, Hahn, and Diamarin, with little regard as to what the ultimate impact of this would be.
Sir.
If the referendum is passed,
Please sit down.
Address the allegations
Keith,
by
please.
the Councilman Sandusky.
Keith,
no, I'd like.
please.
He's
Sir,
going to
public
accuse me
portion-
of something
public
political.
portion is done,
I would
sir.
like to address it.
Sir,
I'd like to
cannot.
address it.
Keith, please.
It wasn't bad enough you sent out flyers attacking my family in the election. Now you're going to come back and attack me again, huh, Councilman?
That's right.
There's a reason
That's right.
you lost 2-1.
That's right.
There's a reason you lost 2-1.
That's right. Council President. Council President.
Mr. Diamarin, sir, public portion is closed, sir.
This is pathetic. This is
Sir,
pathetic.
Sir, please.
It's pathetic.
No.
It's,
Sir,
it's beneath
please.
you. It's
No.
beneath you.
Thank you.
Council President.
Come on.
Council President.
Continue, sir, please. I'm going to ask the crowd, please.
Can we have a second round?
No, sir. Please sit down. Please sit down, sir. Sir.
Council President.
Also, I think that sign should be removed.
Yes, sir. Sir, you need to remove that sign from this council chambers, please.
In the Civil War,
Sir.
France and England tried to
we
destroy
cannot-
America.
We
They
will
helped
not
the
express
Confederates.
hate in this council chambers.
Other people can come up a second time, but I can't.
Expressing hate. We're not.
No, that's not right. That's not right. I have a right to be. Can I sit down? I'll sit down and not talk. I'll sit down and not talk.
Council President.
Yes, sir.
There's going to be an opportunity during oral petitions and remarks after this for people to come up and speak.
Thank you. Need to take the sign down, sir. Sir, you need to take the sign down that says hate. Not express. Sir, will not allow it in the council chamber, sir. Sir, we will not express hate in these council chambers.
All right, you can take the sign, but I'll sit down. Are you happy now?
There.
Supreme
Sir.
Council President.
Sandusky, continue,
I'm gonna get kicked out.
Council President.
Continue.
If the referendum is passed and your sewer taxes and water rates are more than you can afford to pay, I want you to remember these 4 people implemented, engineered this by not telling the people the real truth. The cost of creating
Mr. Diamarin.
another bureaucracy,
Sir.
You just lost your election.
including creating.
Sir.
Right.
Sir.
Council President.
It's not their job to keep order.
It is the job.
Council
We're
President.
not allowing it.
I didn't even speak. I was recording them. I didn't even speak. I didn't speak. No. I'm going to see you guys. No, I didn't speak. You took my time. I'm going to sue you guys.
This is our right. It's a right to be here.
Continue, Councilman.
Thank you, Council President. The cost of creating another bureaucracy for the Edison taxpayers. The water system has been privatized for the last 22 years, with a lease to New Jersey American Water. There was no uproar over that when it passed 22 years ago, probably because it wasn't politicized like this was. If you think that this is just a South Edison water issue, think again. It's not. It affects the North End, too. 2 years ago, a feeder line from North Edison on Steamville Parkway failed and took 4 days to shut the aging valves down and repair the pipe, never mind the damage it caused to residents and their properties. These emergency repairs caused our fire department to dispatch water trucks to protect property in case we had a fire in the areas that had no water service. Are we prepared as a town to take on these responsibilities when there are companies that specialize and manage this type of work every single day? I would rather...
Sir, excuse me.
Council
Ma'am,
President.
ma'am, cannot scream from the crowd, ma'am.
Council President, I'm not sure if everyone... Council President, I'm not sure if everyone heard Councilman Lombardi, but there is going to be a turn for the public to be able to speak. The least that I think the council members can ask is let all of us finish what we have to say. You will have an opportunity to speak during oral petitions and remarks. You want to get through this as efficiently as possible.
Council President, we finished oral petition remarks.
No.
Okay,
No, that was the
no,
public
that was
hearing.
All right, no problem.
Open
Okay.
Public Meetings Act
Okay, then I'm
requires...
sorry. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Sam Joshi.
Councilman Sandelsky.
Yes.
continue, please.
I'd rather all of the taxpayers make this decision, and so I'll be voting no on this ordinance. I believe the registered voters of Edison deserve the right to vote on an issue of such importance. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Council President?
Yes, sir.
First, I want to congratulate the petitioners for the hard work they put into the petition. I know obtaining these signatures was not an easy task, and your passion and hard work is quite admirable. That being said, it was always my understanding that the goal of the petition was not to have the 7 people on this dais decide the proposed concession agreement, and that a public-private partnership of this magnitude should be placed on the ballot to allow the people a voice in the process. I gained this understanding not from my own ideas or own beliefs, but from prior statements from many of the people here in this room tonight requesting that the same 7 people vote favorably on the petitioner's proposed ordinance. We heard tonight from a representative of Food and Water Watch, Junior Romero, who tonight spoke asking the council to vote favorably on the petitioner's proposed ordinance. However, on March 28, 2019, Mr. Romero stated, and I quote, "If the council and mayor have so much confidence in this proposal, then put it on the ballot so all the voters can vote alongside all of you before you are running for election and re-election." Just 2 weeks later, during both the April 8, 2019 and April 10, 2019 council meetings, council members Patil and Coyle asked this council to consider putting the concession agreement on the ballot as a non-binding referendum to allow the people to decide. In addition to hearing from Councilman Patil and Councilman Coyle on this issue, we heard the pleas of many residents requesting that the people, not this council, be permitted to vote on this issue. I'm sure most, if not all of you, are aware that there was a Democratic primary election which recently took place on June 4th. Prior to the election, the voters were presented with campaign literature from the Patil, Coyle, Brescher, Ship Freeman team, which said over and over, "Say no to Suez, let the people decide." The campaign literature also encouraged residents to sign the petition so you will have a voice in the process. Now hearing Councilman Coyle make the motion, or not the motion yet, but to approve the ordinance is quite surprising, being that the whole campaign platform was quite different, and they wanted the people to decide. Finally, one of the named petitioners, Keith Hahn, who you heard tonight make his plea to the council to vote favorably on the ordinance before the council, made quite a different statement on May 2nd, 2019, here in council chambers at the last scheduled public hearing held with regard to the concession agreement. On May 2nd, 2019, Mr. Hahn approached the mic and stated in effect, as of that time there were several hundred signatures on the petition, and went on to say, and I quote, "I would expect the council to respect the will of the people, and if we do get the required signatures, to actually put that forward on the ballot." Mr. Hahn went on to read a portion of a letter from an attorney the petitioners were working with and summarized it as follows. "So we have legal counsel who believes that a binding referendum is an option. I know there's been a lot of debate and discussion of whether or not that would be possible. I just wanted to clear that up, and I would expect the council, if we get the signatures, to respect the will of the people and put that on the ballot. Again, this petition was started in the hope that the signatures would get this issue to the voters to be put on the ballot. I'm not sure what, if anything, has changed. The council's vote tonight, as I understand it, is a procedural matter, and a vote of no will allow this matter to be put on the ballot and allow the voters to make the decision. Therefore, I will be voting no tonight. Lastly, for the speakers who are putting forth the argument that the special election will cost the taxpayers approximately $100,000 and are asking the council to vote yes and save the taxpayers the money, I would like to point out the following. A special election was requested by the petitioners. The petitioners could have requested that this be on the general election ballot in November of this year, which is what I would have preferred, considering that the general election generally brings out more voters than a special election. I, with the help of our counsel, Mr. Northgrave, looked into whether this could go on to the November ballot. However, the statutory language does not permit it once the required amount of signatures was obtained and the request for a special election is made. Had the petitioners not requested the special election, this matter could have been voted on in November, and the township could have avoided the cost associated with a special election. Thank you.
Sir, Mr. Romero, one more time, sir. I'm going to ask you to leave. Go ahead, sir. Please continue.
I'm done. Thank you,
Thank
Council
you.
President.
Other council members, anybody else?
Council President,
Yes, sir.
I will be voting yes on this ordinance tonight. Edison and its over 100,000 residents deserve clean, affordable, and dependable drinking water. The residents of Edison deserve a stable sewer and water rates. Recent incidents are further symptoms of aging water and sewer system. Our infrastructure is crumbling. In order to address these pressing needs, we need a long and sustainable plan, one that is reliant on the talent within Edison, one that does not place increasing burdens on our tax base, and one that is not reliant on private equity firms seeking profit. We will undoubtedly have hard and difficult decisions to make, but in my opinion, holding our future in our hands is a far better path than leasing our future to a for-profit company answerable to shareholders and not to the public. To those who would argue that the 5,000 signatories of this petition should not determine Edison's future, I remind you that you were willing to allow 7 people to do just that. When Councilman Coyle and I proposed a referendum, some on this council said that we should not defer to the public, that these important decisions should rest with the elected officials because that is what we were elected to do. Now you have a choice, and I ask you, who do you stand with? I stand with the people of Edison who agreed wholeheartedly that this ordinance is the right way to proceed. I stand with families who demand clean, affordable, and drinkable drinking water. I stand with the residents who want transparency and accountability. For those reasons, I vote yes and urge you to do so as well. Answering 2 questions from my council colleagues, being this was a political platform. When I introduced the referendum, we would have avoided runaround to collect the signatures. And this would have been a special election. We would have an opportunity to either do that in November and would have a lot of time to think about it. This council, without a doubt, had no intention to put this for a referendum. And tonight, they are saying that because you got 5,000 signatures, we are going to make your life much harder. And will give opportunity for Suez again to send the campaign literature to defeat this referendum. So again, I urge all my council members to consider all these things and vote yes. Thank you, Council President.
Anybody else?
Yes. Council President, first of all, I want to applaud the petitioners and everyone that put this together. I've been involved in politics since I was 14. In the last 15 years, I have never seen any organic movement like this, just like how Councilman Coyle had stated. So it's very impressive that each of you were able to get signed petition ordinances, or petitions that were also notarized. I've never seen anything like it, and it's very impressive. And it's not a small feat. It's, you know, when I hear certain comments that say that it was only 5,000 people that came out, the way that I'm looking at this is 5,000 is a giant number. 5,000, when you do the math on over the last 5 years, the average of the amount of people that actually turn out to vote, and that includes presidential elections, that's 37% of the electorate. 37% of the electorate is standing with this ordinance right now. If you exclude the presidential race and you exclude the governor's race, that's more than 75% of the electorate speaking right now. So when I look at this and I compare the public and private options, honestly, I would have wanted to have a hybrid option. There were various things that I brought to the attention of the administration I would have liked to see, but we're not at that point right now. Right now, we're here to vote on this ordinance. The way that I view it now is that a privatization, full privatization, is a short-term fix, but a public option is cheaper long-term. Not only that, the way that I'm looking at this, ultimately, when it comes down to this, you know, it reminds me of a vote that I was not around for, but some of you may have been. The same thing that we're dealing with in terms of Cablevision. What happened in the 1970s? When you dig through Edison's history, we had no other option. That's what we were saying, and now we're stuck with Cablevision decades later. And I can't stand by that. But when I look at this petition that 5,000 people signed, and people want to have as our sewer and water lines to be publicly owned and operated, there's one message that I'm seeing. And that one message is these 5,000 people want better, efficient government. They want people to have, they want elected officials to run government efficiently for basic things such as public utilities. And that is why I want everyone in this room to know that I've heard your voice loud and clear. I will be voting yes for this.
I, like my council colleagues, I want to congratulate all the petitioners that went out there and requested the opportunity to be heard. I would say that when the non-binding referendum was requested, it was very early on in the process. And the comments of my council colleagues were, it is our job to take on the responsibility to go through this process, and it's very early in the process to make that move. Again, I think as many have gone through is, the intention was to allow the people to be heard. The intention was everybody to have a voice. So the petitions went out, petitions came out, submitted, and now requested for that to go back to the people. And to deny that opportunity, it's something that I'm not in agreement with. I think everybody has the right. And if it is the right of the people to go out and vote and choose to knock it down, then I'll stand by it. But to deny the right of everybody else that didn't have the opportunity to either sign the petition or learn more about it, it's something that I'm not willing to support. So I will be voting no. Thank you. Sir, one more time and I will ask you to leave, sir.
Council President.
Okay.
Council President, thank you for keeping the order of the room, and I do think we should respect the Council President, and I don't want to see anybody get thrown out. I do have to just rebuttal to my council colleagues, Lenny Zendelsky and Michael Lombardi. I took a stance from day one, and they chose to sit silent. I respect their education, their background, one an engineer, one an attorney. What's being done today is dividing our Democratic Party, and we're here to unite and do the right thing. We're fortunate to lead this council as Democrats. There's not a single Republican on this council. We're all Democrats. We've led for a very long time. And I'm proud we are here as Democrats. But the fact they're using this scapegoat now, when long before we could have had discussions, long before we could have not sat silent. In fact, I was referred by our attorney to not speak in the public portion. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I stood up. It was easy to take down this concession agreement. For some of you know, I have a high school diploma and just 30 credits at a county college. And we defeated this with a lot of people just like that in here, housewives, homeowners, degrees and non-degrees, and we took this apart. We put the time in. I would debate any day with Councilman Zendelsky of the homework he did on the concession agreement. He didn't, because he would have spoke up and did the same thing he just did tonight. Spoke about the things that he felt were important. But no, he sat silent.
Don't speak for me, Councilman Coyle. Speak for yourself.
Council
all right?
members, please
do that. You were against this thing before it started, before the first public hearing.
Sir.
So why don't you tell the people that?
I'm going to ask the crowd to please allow the council members to speak.
Council President, I wish you would ask our Councilman Zendelsky just to follow the rules of order and just wait to speak. I have my chance, he had his. I'm just stating the facts. My crystal ball was right. I tell you how they're going to vote. I told
No, your
you
crystal ball isn't right.
Sir,
The people are going to
Councilman.
decide, Joe.
Councilman.
See, this is, you're hearing this from a weak councilman.
Sir, do not insult your
And-
council
and-
members,
and-
please.
and-
Come on, let's get
You're the coward, Joe.
Councilman,
It's,
Councilman Coyle, Councilman
Council President,
Zendelsky,
I'll
please
just-
maintain order.
I'll maintain order. And you're right, Councilman.
Sir.
The fact of the matter is, they had their chance and they sat silent. Today, they're using this as a scapegoat to divide the party and make us do the work. Early on, when we had a chance to bring up the ordinance to put it on the ballot, that was in March. Of course, we would have used that right away and not done all this homework, as Councilman Patil mentioned. Now that you made us do all the work, it's quite obvious the public doesn't want this. You're holding on to a string, and you want to hold on to a string to talk about the other residents in the community? This doesn't stand a chance at all. I'm just looking for us to save the time. I respect their decision that they're going to vote yes. It's just wrong. It's a scapegoat, and it's a string they're just holding on to. It's the only thing they have. I feel it's wrong. We should just vote, move forward. We're one vote away, just one vote away here. I'm voting yes, Councilman Patil's voting yes, and Councilman Joshi is voting yes. And Councilman Joshi, I want to thank him for putting the time in, and he has moved to do the right thing. And that's all I'm asking for tonight, to do the right thing and unite this party and just move forward. Sad to say, we still don't have a plan in place, and we should have had a plan long before this was presented. And none of them offered anything other than what was proposed, which was a 40-year deal, which was ridiculous. So I'm only speaking for what was in front of me and what was presented and the lack of homework. Look at the big law firms we took down, and look at the questions we asked. They didn't even have answers for. So it's just quite obvious the homework wasn't done, they weren't prepared, and we took the time in a short period. It was maybe 35 to 60 days, and we did our homework. So I'm proud that we stood here together. I'm sorry that this is the way they feel. And I'm sorry to use this as a scapegoat and a string to hold on to. Fine, if they want to go to the referee. It doesn't matter, because we're going to take it down. But it only hurts our council, it hurts our township, and it hurts our party. Thank you, Council President.
Need a motion to adopt?
You can't have a vote on the ordinance. You need a motion and a second to adopt.
I'm extremely delighted to adopt this ordinance. I make a motion to adopt, Council President.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Coyle.
Yes.
Councilmember Deal.
No.
Councilmember Joshi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lombardi.
No.
Councilmember Patil.
Yes.
Councilman Sedelsky.
No.
Council President Gomez.
No.
Okay. Just to be clear, as a procedural...
Ma'am, please.
As a procedural matter, the statute says that if it is not adopted, then, and I'm paraphrasing here, You have 10 days for the committee of petitioners to withdraw. Assuming that doesn't happen, you have 40 to 60 days for the election to be held, and a council will direct when that election will be held. So at this point, assuming that this issue may arise, I drafted a resolution to set an election date. For the benefit of the council, there are 3 Thursdays that fall within that 40 to 60-day period. That would be September 3, September 10, and September 17. And I will leave it to the council president to initiate that discussion.
Mr. Dorothy, do you mean 3 Tuesdays?
Thursdays, Tuesdays.
Well, there's also 3 Thursdays. It just doesn't happen to be 3, 10, and 17.
Councilman, that's the day after, the 3rd is the day after Labor Day. Why don't I propose the 10th? September 10th, Tuesday, September 10th, if anybody.
Good. Just, if we could just get a motion and a second on adopting the resolution to set the election for September 10, and then we would need a roll call on that as well.
So moved. Second. Okay, all in favor?
No, let's do a roll call.
Yeah.
This is setting the election date for September 10th.
Okay.
Council President, just,
So who's doing the motion?
Council President, just ask a question. Is there any public input? I just want to make sure we're not.
Yes, I'm going to open that up before we vote,
okay.
sir.
Thank you, Council President.
Well, there's going to be a public comment period. The Open Public Meeting Act requires a public comment period at the end of the meeting. If there was public comment on whether it's going to be held on September 10th, you can entertain that if you choose to. But as to just general public comments after this vote, there would still be a public comment period, Councilman.
Is there a question, Council President, is there a public comment section where we would consider changing the date? Is the date in stone when we vote right now?
Yes.
It's
And
selected
once you
by the
vote,
council,
date,
yeah.
once you vote, that'll be the date. So if there's a discussion to be held as to that, then, and just to be clear, it doesn't, elections, there's no law that says elections have to be held on Tuesdays. I suggested 3, 10, or 17 because candidly, I find we had this once before with the U.S. Senate election that was held on a Wednesday, I believe. And candidly, I found it, as in another role I play, I found voters were very confused by that. But that is open for discussion. That I was just suggesting 3, 10, and 17 because they were Tuesdays.
What? Hold on.
Councilor, a quick question on this one.
Yes, sir.
Council President, to our attorney, because I voted yes on this ordinance because I do not support the special election. Now we are moving the motion for the date, to decide the date.
It's so, I mean, yes, you could still vote on it. The action was taken. You disagree with the action that was taken, but now there's a separate action council needs to take, and you can, I mean, you can vote no if you choose to, but you can vote.
Because I don't agree with the election, so that's the reason I said.
Okay, sure.
Council President, are we open to consider September 17th? I'm just not. Do you have a calendar?
So, Mr. Northgrave? So it's allowed to be on any day of the week, including weekends? No. Okay.
I don't, yeah. You want to pay a lot more?
No,
Then-
I don't.
Then hold it on a Saturday. I don't even think sure if the board will work on a Saturday, but
Got it.
it'll cost you significantly more, I would imagine.
Council President, I'm just suggesting the later of the 3 offered to this, if we can consider this the 17th, I'm open to that. It's the latest date of the 3 you suggested. Would be Tuesday, September 17th.
Just to be clear, and that's fine, Councilman, that would be a separate motion. There's a motion, currently a motion and a second for September 10. You are now suggesting September 17. So I guess that, if there's support for that, then
We also have a zoning board meeting scheduled for the 17th. Here's a polling place, so.
okay. Then that's part of the consideration for council as to that date.
Let me just, Council President, just explain to me how would the 17th interfere with a vote, because they're voting, the board, this is the date we're having the special election, correct? Right. So, and this is a polling place, so you can't have a planning board meeting? You can't?
I think the concern, Councilman Cole, I think the concern was that right here is a polling place location.
Okay. So we've moved board meetings in different locations. Okay. I'm just suggesting the 17th, that's all. I know there's a motion. I'm sure we can alternate a zoning meeting in the upstairs room.
Sir, we're going to stick with the 10th. Okay.
Okay, so now we need a motion, right?
We have a motion and a second. Now we see the poll on the
Now we
10th.
just need a roll call.
Just to be clear,
Wait, is there?
just to be clear,
Roll call. Well, wait.
Do we want to open it up to the public?
if I mean, that's your discretion. You don't need to, but it's your discretion. The only comment would be on the date. But I'll leave that to council's discretion as to whether there will be a public comment after this resolution before there's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So just to clarify, this will be only, if I open it up to the public, will be only to comment on the September 10th date at this particular point. So do you want to, I'll open it up. Okay. Ms. Hennessy.
Are you voting now for the 10th?
Yes.
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 You're going to let the public speak.
Yes.
Well, what if the public doesn't want it on the 10th? You've already voted.
You can
Correct. That's what I'm
vote
saying.
if you
I'd
want
open
to
it now.
comment. If you want to comment on the 10th, you can come up now.
If you want to comment on the 10th, I'm opening it up to the public now. Go ahead, Mrs.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. Picking the dates, when you talk about another date during the school year and the conditions of security at this point in time will have to either cost the Board of Education more security to bring into the schools during the election, or is the township going to pay for the additional security? When somebody had mentioned a Saturday, and it was said that, no, a Saturday election would cost more to have it on the township costs, but having it during the week would be added costs for the Board of Education and an inconvenience for the students, physical education, and so forth. So if you are going to do it on those dates, will you be incurring the costs of the special election and how it's going to impact the schools? Question mark.
Yeah, just
hold on, we're discussing. Please allow us to respond.
They're discussing internally. So.
right. I don't know how I'm just trying to address it. The costs, I don't know where those costs are shifted right now. Whether if in June and November, if the township or the county pays for when you use a school, then that's what will happen for a special election. But I don't want to sit here and tell you I know how that plays out. I don't know how it plays out.
Then how can you feasibly vote on a date if you don't know these answers?
Because the election has to be held, so it's either going to be held on a weekend or it's going to be held during the week. And I mean, candidly, one of the issues to me is if you hold it on a Saturday. My personal opinion, and I'll leave my personal opinion out. The question before the council is, what day do they want to hold it? Elections are traditionally held on September 10th, on Tuesdays. and that was before the council. Council can vote yes, council can vote no, but, whether it's going to cost, what the cost would be is an issue that needs to be borne because there's going to be a special election.
Yes,
Council President?
but no one has answered my question yet.
Well, we also need to consider our religious communities on Saturdays and Sundays, so I wouldn't be in favor of anything but a Monday through a Friday.
So therefore, will you bear the cost of the additional security in the schools, is my question. You can say no.
The cost of the schools, in June, the schools are open, okay?
No, they closed during the primary.
This particular time,
This
not...
particular time, normally they're not closed.
In
was the
the
first year they
past
were
years,
closed.
they've started closing more often because of security measures.
This was the first.
So I don't know
first year.
how that
the
would
first
happen
year.
now with an additional election being held. So that's what I'm just asking. You can say no.
No, I mean, I think at this point, yeah, we got to follow the process of the election. I don't know that we have a specific answer other than it will follow the same process that it's done in the past.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Rhonda Darbuz. I live at 440 Old Post Road. No one's thrown around September 3rd as an option, but I just like to put that out there because school doesn't actually open to the 4th, I believe. So it might be the best option available given the comments that have been coming forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Gacko.
Thomas Gockel, 77 Safford Avenue. I was reluctant to speak earlier because I'm not that familiar with all the money being spent for Suez to take over the...
Mr. Gacko, this is purely just on the date for the election.
I was afraid you'd say
come
that.
back. You can come back and speak. I'm going to open it up for the public again after
Thank
this
you.
vote.
I respect what you said.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Romero.
Junior Romero, 100 Bayard Street, New Brunswick. I just wanted to say that I certainly support having an election on Tuesday. Now that the special election has been decided, that's just what people know. They know to vote on Tuesdays. I'd be against having an election on a weekend. And whether it's the September 10th or the 17th, I'd support both of those dates. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the resolution?
Move to close the public portion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Coyle.
No.
Councilmember Deal.
Yes.
Councilmember Joshi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lombardi.
Yes.
Councilmember Patil.
Absent.
Councilmember Sandelsky.
Yes.
Council President Gomez.
Yes. Okay, so the date for the special election has been set for Tuesday, September 10th. Okay, moving on to oral petitions and remarks. I have a list. Anthony Diamarin. Oral petitions and remarks.
Anthony Diamarin, 15 Rhodex Circle. Obviously disappointed. It's clear that some council members here have taken things a little personally. That's on them now. They're obviously not going to be in office going forward. But quick question, absentee voting in terms of special election, does that?
Again, Mr. Dameron, I'm hesitant to answer hypotheticals, but I assume so.
Yeah, somebody just brought it up. I was just...
Yeah, I assume the same rules, I'm positive the same rules will apply.
Okay.
So, yeah, VBMs will be available, the normal process of an election.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So, Council President, just
Yes,
a
sir.
question to attorney. So this, even though this is a special election, but this will be considered as any other election. So that means the VBM or any other thing?
Yes.
Correct.
Perfect.
Everything will
Thank
be
you.
the same.
And that also include any limitation on the voter registration beforehand? That date might change based on the special.
Check once I tell the board this
Okay.
date, don't tell me the dates of cutoffs.
Okay, so we need to publicize, all those dates.
Correct.
The VBM application date, the voter registration date, and everything beforehand. Thank
Right,
you.
once we confirm with the Board of Elections, then, yes.
Thank you,
Yes, sir,
Councilman.
thank you. Still on the list, Maria Orchid.
Hi, Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. Sorry for the voice, it comes and goes. I'd like to thank all your councilmen for all the diligence and the efforts, especially Joe, and going through all these meetings and to educate the public on what the issues are. Unfortunately, we feel that we keep getting pounded by extra fees and things are changing and it's very hard to keep up. Yes, the economy isn't as robust as everybody thinks it is at times. And unfortunately, due also this week, extra bills or the rates going up, it's hard to keep up. And we still want to keep all the families in Edison. And we like the way our small town feels. And we like the way the water circulates. I'm Middlesex, and I know this is going to affect me. So I'd like to thank you and just to be cautious and think of our residents when you're looking into these. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Still on the list, Jerry Shine.
Good evening, gentlemen. Jerry Shine, 18 Winthrop Road, Edison. I'm very disappointed on the outcome of your vote. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Coyle, Councilman Patil, and Councilman Joshi for their efforts in our petition signing. And we're just going to leave it up to the voters to decide. As you can tell, it's probably 10-1 in favor of the petition, but I'm really disappointed in the outcome. This is definitely a Republican, either party thing here for residents. It's all about the residents. It's not about political sides, left, right, in the center. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're off the list. Mr. Pointer. Mr. Gockel, I'm sorry, I'll get you. Give me 1 second. Thank you, John.
Tom Gockel, 77 Saffron Avenue. As I said earlier, I was reluctant to speak before because I was not knowledgeable enough about the whole question of whether Suez should take over our sewer and water system. If anything, I would lean that they should not do it simply because a company buys another company for one reason only, to make money. And if they can make money, why can't we do it at cost? So there's something behind it that I'm not familiar with and we don't know about. But a couple observations I do want to make. When any councilmen speak, I'd like to hear you, not the audience. I'm ashamed of the way the people acted tonight. You want to speak, you come up here and speak and take your full 6 minutes, and you should have it. But to keep shouting from the background and making noise and getting thrown out is that totally behavior that should not happen at any meeting. I belong to a few organizations, and the membership may only be 180 people, 60 people, 40, but never have I seen the behavior that I've seen here tonight, not only by the audience, but by the council also. The councilmen on there should not name each other and question each other and begrade other people. They're there to take care of the people, not to make comments about each other. It's very poor behavior, and it doesn't look good for anyone. We should respect each other's opinion and listen And if you want to say something, come before the podium and speak at the podium. Again, I've lived in Edison probably longer than anyone in this room, and I probably pay taxes than anyone in this room, which gives me no more right than someone that moved in yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John Pointer, Roosevelt Boulevard. I kind of wanted to echo what Mr. Gockel had just said, both from the public here and up at the dais. It's been kind of embarrassing, and it's just a bad look. Before I wanted to say thank you to Octor for asking my questions because I was not able to be here. I was actually watching via Facebook Live when he was asking, and I just wanted to make it clear that my questions are based on me being a resident. And I appreciate Octor asking because he's my committee man in my neighborhood. So if there's anything about like my involvement with the Environmental Commission or the Net Zero Committee or any of my other things, and nothing to do with my questions, it is solely as a concerned resident of Edison. And finally, I just want to echo Councilman Joshi's sentiment in regards to this whole like water sewer thing. In reality, it's probably a little bit of both, a little bit of the private sector, a little bit of the public sector. It's quite unfortunate that we can't just have that as an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Lady behind you.
Good evening, Sandy McLaughlin, 41 Bradley Drive in Edison. I've been sitting here listening to what everybody's had to say tonight, and for 2 years, it's my understanding there's been backroom discussions to bring Suez into Edison without any input from the Edison citizens. And now suddenly, some of our council members are like, well, we want to open it up to the entire residents of Edison, which I fully support. But why was this not done prior to 5,000 people signing a petition? Why are we now suddenly saying, yes, let's open it up to our citizens? I'm just baffled by the fact that for 2 years there were discussions were taking place about what was going to happen to all of the citizens in Edison, and there was no concern at that point in time. Only when there was a groundswell of people who came together and said, this isn't right, we're being force-fed something that we don't want, right? So I'm all in favor of allowing people to vote, but we need to, one, educate people of what's right and wrong. I walked in a little bit late, but there was a young lady speaking before, and she outlined some really important things about how there was a lot of rates, increases that were built into the contract that were not discussed when we had that public hearing. There were things that were said a couple months ago at that public hearing about 4.9 increases for the first 6 or 7 years, but now there's all these little things built into this huge contract that most people will never read that are going to raise our rates astronomically, and that bothers me to no end. So when we go out to vote, I want people to be fully educated as to what's going to take place, not the propaganda that first came out a couple of months ago, which was in favor of Suez, which was put out by Suez, but we really need to educate the people as to what's going to happen. The other thing is I've done some research, and where Suez goes into towns, the eviction rates skyrocket. You know why? And maybe eviction's not the right word, but people are not paying their sewer taxes, and then they're being evicted from their homes, and they can't pay these sewer taxes because there's this huge monumental increase, and they can't afford to pay it. And in every township that Suez has gone into, this has happened. And so we need to let people be aware of the fact that there's issues out there with Suez that are not good. They're not good for Edison. They're just bad business practices for our township. They're good business practices if you're a Suez because you're going to line your pockets. KKR is going to line their pockets. There's got to be something behind this that we're not aware of, right? Why were there secret meetings being taken place? Why was this not shared with the public? I may not get the answers to why, but we deserve to have an educated public when we go to vote on this issue. And also, there needs to be some information that's shared. When are these public meetings taking place? I swear to God, since I've started coming to these meetings, I never get notifications. I never get 911 callbacks on anything that's happening in this township. So it just seems a little weird that the township doesn't want people to know when these things are happening. Sure, go on the website, but we need to educate people. We need to publicize things. We need to be doing a better job of letting the citizens of Edison know what's really happening.
I just want to make a comment, and you don't need to respond, but just to be clear, Suez didn't come into the picture until months ago. The process has been transparent, and I think it's been said at every budget presentation by the mayor that we need to invest in our sewer system. It's deteriorating, it's at a dangerous state, and it's been public to the record that we gone out and hired engineering firms. A year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, we hired all the professionals to help us assess what should be done. And then it went through its process. Suez was the last of the company standing, or what they were willing to offer. So just for correction, for the purposes of, I'm not disputing whether we can do a better job at trying to better communicate with the public, but I don't want the public to walk away with the impression that it's being done behind closed doors. It's up to the point that you have something to share, that it becomes real. And when we started going out, we went out to the engineering firms to do an assessment and to hire the professionals to help us figure out what needs to be done. That was all open. We all voted on this. So it's been transparent up to the point that we get to something that could be presented to the public. So just making the distinction, appreciate your comments about better communicating and finding better avenues to communicate with the public, and we should always do that. So thank you.
Council President, I just want to also, I want to agree with what the Council President said right there. And there's one part of what the previous speaker just said that I want to clarify. And to explain the timeline of this, the council was presented this in February. So when people assume that we knew years ahead of time what contract was being done, we didn't. This came to our attention in February, and I can't speak for other council members, and I won't do that, but the way that I felt, or the way that I look at this, is as soon as it came out, when I started asking questions or possible alternatives, things that we can be doing, the ability to keep in mind what I said when I gave my vote earlier. Ideally, I would have liked to have this as a hybrid, where it's a part of it is public, a part of the deal is private. I think that would have been the most efficient thing. However, because the petition was brought to us, there's a certain timeline what we have to vote on it, and that kind of expedited things to the point where our ability to negotiate perhaps with the administration or Suez or any other company that would have came along or requested a different proposal, that ability was then taken out of our hands. I don't fault anyone for that. It's just the circumstances that we were dealing with. So it was from February to now here we are, and that's the reason why now it's going to go to a referendum.
Thank you, sir.
And Council President, I want to make
sir.
one more remark. Historically, we have, again, this council has seen the budget as a line item for the water and sewer, especially for the sewer. This time, I have asked Mayor and the administration explicitly put the separate presentation, show how our infrastructure looks like, what the issues and challenges we have, what our net debt is, what we need to do, and we can take it from there. So this was a special request to Mayor that would bring further transparency in understanding where we stand on our system.
I think that all has been provided, Councilman. It's been provided throughout the whole process of outlining how much debt we will have to pay off. We all have access to the information, what the revenues are. So, and we all talked about the limited surplus that it's being able to generate. The biggest concern of it is always, in order for you to generate more surplus to take on more debt, you have to raise rates astronomically in order to be able to support that. So a lot easier said than done, because it's all commingled with the town, and then it goes back to having a plan and being able to execute on an engineering plan, not necessarily a long-range plan, but again, those are the things that, whatever the outcome of this is gonna be, and just to be clear for the public benefit of it, we talk about a Plan B. Whatever the outcome is going to be, whether it passes or doesn't pass, we will, as your elected officials, see that we do everything in the best interest of the people. So we will not, it's not suddenly something doesn't go a certain direction, then we throw our hands up. We will make every effort to make sure that everybody is protected, that our infrastructure is protected. At what cost and how long, that all will need to be figured out. But rest assured that we're not going to be left out to dry. I am also a resident here in this town. So, and I can guarantee you that that's a commitment from every council member up here. Go ahead, Councilman Patil, I don't know if you have any other comments.
Yeah, no, we do have the information about the sewer net debt and all that kind of stuff. This was a presentation specifically as a part of the budget hearing. If Mayor can elaborate more on a separate slide, like any other department he does that, that would be helpful. That was the request.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll need to expand, and I think it allowed the public to put into perspective of taking the engineering information that we've been seeing throughout the Suez presentations and the amount of debt requirement that we will need to take on. I think allow people to understand this is what we are committing to do, and it, you know, it's going to be in a way simple math. This is what we're generating right now. In order for us to go out and do that, it's going to take this much. But if we sign up to do that together, then that's the decision that we make as a community. So, you know, at the end, the goal is to make sure that we don't have a repeat of what we've seen in the past with the sewer issues that, you know, we saw in the superstorms. So, number one priority is to keep all our residents safe. And we will do anything and everything to make sure that we do that. So rest assured of that.
Council President,
Sir.
Just in respect to your comments about the transparency, I do understand you have the right for your opinion of how this was presented to the council, but in my opinion, I think it was done wrong. I'm not here to argue that point now, but I'll debate the timelines of our notice as a councilman, and the timelines of when this information was presented to me. But you're entitled to your opinion, but as you said, it could have been done better. And had we collectively gotten together to talk about a 40-year deal and $850 million loan, I think we would have had more input. So I just...
Well, I think that was Councilman Joshi's, it's having the ability to have more input. I think the position the council members took, removing all the political side of it, is allow it to go through the process, and then we go back and try to figure out how we're going to do this. That opportunity has been removed. We don't have the opportunity to do that. What I was referring to was very specific about the things that we voted on. Hire an engineer firm and do an assessment. You know, hire financial consultants, hire attorneys, figure out what is it that we're going to do. Until there was a deal to be put together, that's when it was passed on to the council. That was my statement clearly. So
Thank you,
I understand, you know, everybody's opinion, but that was the position, and I think that's what Councilman Joshi had added as well. So we're still on the petitions and oral petitions. I remind Julian.
Thank you, Council President. Julian Zamet, 17 Stiles Road. I'm assuming there's going to be another public meeting with Suez between now and September 10th.
No, sir. Not at this point.
Is that a maybe, or?
No, that. Go ahead, Mr. Northrup, if you can.
No, there's nothing to meet with anybody about until the referendum's decided. If the referendum's approved, then any opportunity to deal with Suez or any other private company is completely off the table. It'll be completely a public operation of the system for a minimum of 4 years.
I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, in the back.
Mary Leitner, 50 Stony Road West. I've been in Edison since 1967. I look good for my age. Normally, we get our sewer bills in April. They're due in April, and they're due in October. I still haven't gotten one, and neither of some of my residents in my area have not gotten any. Is this why we haven't gotten any? No. I don't want to have my house go on a tax sale.
No, that's, last week, we just adopted, so when is it? Last week of July.
Okay, and when's it going to be due? Because usually they're in 2 payments.
Right. We can, I'll be more than happy to take your information and we can get that specifics out to you.
Thank you.
And we'll put it out on the website also for the benefit of everybody else that has a similar question. Anybody else? Ms. Shipp.
Jerry Ship Freeman, 41 South Main Street. But the information is that, as the lady stated earlier, evictions, I think is more so like foreclosures. There comes a lot of foreclosures. And I thought the reason why I got up and spoke, because I thought it was kind of smug that they would divide the South and the North, and the person would say, oh, there's only a certain amount of people that's going to be affected by the water. And that really disappointed me a lot, that somebody's trying to divide the town up and astronomical fees. And then at that point, when you make a decision now, when all this comes home to roost, when all these fees and all this money comes up, and we start having to lay off police, we start have to laying off fire people, then what happens then? Because I've seen the towns that go down like that, because they have bills and stuff that somebody made way before they became in office. So all these bills, all these foreclosures, all this stuff, I can't believe that you would do this to the people who actually trusted you enough to look after the town.
What is it that we're doing specifically, ma'am, if you can specify?
You want to create an $850 million debacle that, let me tell you something, for 40 years, everybody's saying now, well, 40 years. How old will most people be in 40 years? And when the bill gets due, how do we know that in that amount of time that the tax revenue, which is going crazy already, how do we know it's going to be able to hold up the bills that you're creating? The young lady that came here earlier that knew all about contracts and stuff, I think you guys should have sat in the room with her. Because she was very, very thorough and very intelligent, because she added extra fees and stuff. So, to me, my best knowledge, you guys need to go in the back room and get with her, because you're too satisfied too easily with selling the town. It's too much. And it's not Mayberry anymore. This is a town that is like 99,000 people, all right? So that little old town look, it's not that anymore. And we need real responsible people, and you need to hire responsible people to look after different things. Like everybody told you, you sold this, you're outsourcing this, you're outsourcing that, you're outsourcing that. I thought you were a group of Democrats. All that outsourcing? Come on now.
So just for clarification purposes, yeah, thank you. Not for the, I'm not debating, and I'm not gonna pretend to be a foreclosure expert, but to put it in the relationship of the sewer bill versus the municipal taxes, or the overall municipal tax for the average home in Edison is probably $8,000 municipal tax versus, no ma'am, you need to please.
Probably have way more money than other people.
That it's the average assessed value in a home, it's an average of $8,000, whether it's more, whether it's less in some areas. Average sewer bill is gonna be somewhere in the vicinity of $400 to $800 a year. So, I can't speak for what has occurred in other towns where SUEZ has been present, but I'm not sure that I can accept the fact that foreclosures has been driven by sewer bills or anything outside of that nature. So, anybody else? First-time speakers. Yes, ma'am.
Ala Katso, 151 Whitman Avenue. I'm very disappointed with today's vote. And I'm battling cancer for 7 years. And bills are piling up because of my chemotherapy and my treatment. And believe it or not, I would like to live longer. But I have a question to Councilman Lombardi and Sandalski. I'm involved with these meetings since March, and I never heard anything in favor of citizens of Township of Edison from their side. Never. With all these meetings, they sitting quietly, and today they voted no.
Ma'am, I think if you go through the recollection of it, and I think for majority of the council members on this dais, they've taken the position of let us go through the process, learn as much as we can, and then form an opinion. And I think that was pretty much alluding to what Councilman Joshi said as well. This is what we were going through. This would have been, could be the largest engineering project in the history of Edison. We do not have all the answers, but it was important for us to go through that process before taking a position. And it is to act in the best interest of the people. So whether they were going to be in favor or not, I can't speak to that. But to, you know, if you're referring to for them to take a position, I don't ever recall them taking a position either way.
I never heard anything positive. That's the question. I need just one example that they will tell me they voted for us. Because when we elected them, okay, we voted for them. And how they like paying us back. And they, again, they're sitting quiet.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Council President.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say that I'm proud of my service to this township for the past 7.5 years, and I feel that I've done a lot of good for the township and will continue to do so until the end of my term. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. First-time speakers. Yes, sir.
Evening, gentlemen. Brett Baker, Grandview Avenue. Unrelated, the Women's World Cup team won the World Cup last weekend, which was pretty cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. They won, interestingly, by playing offense for a long period of time. Sorry, I skipped to the main point before I wanted to say this. Thank you for running this meeting tonight. I was worried about it, given what happened Monday, and I appreciate the decorum you maintained. Thank you. So anyways, back to playing offense and what it takes to win victories. And so if this was brought to our attention in February, we're going to work to ensure that we do what it takes to do it. You know, I've been coming to council meetings for significantly less than you, good sir. But I feel like we're always playing defense. And I said this 2.5 years ago with the Board of Education too. I feel like we're always playing defense. We'll catch up. I promise you, we'll catch up. If we've known about this since February, and there have been meetings, I agree. I haven't been able to make all of them. I made as many as I could. But I feel like we can do a better job, and I implore this group of elected officials for the rest of your term and your commitment to play better offense, to plan ahead. You knew this vote was going to be 4-3. You knew the referendum was, you knew the vote was going to come. You were prepared for an election to happen in September. I would just ask, when will we know what the answers to the questions of the public were related to security at the schools? Because 2 elections ago, I voted at James Monroe School, and there was not a single officer at the door of a wide open school while students were in the building. And as the father of a student who will someday attend that school, I'm going to ask this group of elected officials to play offense on planning that. If we know we have a vote, and you got time, right? And I'm sure you will. I'm just asking. Play offense. Be ahead of the game. If you know you're going to work to ensure, when will the conversation start? What does that plan B happen? Come the vote in September. Don't wait till September 11th to start those conversations, begin having those conversations now. When will the public comments come when we're going to have a block party to hear the things? If we want to hear the citizens' voices so much, Metuchen's mayor had coffee with the mayor or whatever the other day. The police department's doing the best they can. I disagree with having lemonade with a cop on a Thursday in the middle of the day. I can't go, but they're trying. And I would love to do the same with you all. If you are so interested, and I trust you all, I trust all of you are interested in hearing it, then I look forward to the invitations to sit down with you one-on-one, 10-on-1, 100-on-1, 1,000-on-1, whatever, to truly hear our concerns, to hear the conversations. Because that's how you play offense. That's how you fix this township. That's how you fix the feelings that are in this room right now. And not to be petty, but I just had, because I got the mic, that's how you fix the things that are broken, literally up there, just the wood's broken. But you play offense, right? And we all know broken windows. And these broken windows in here are an indication of how we're functioning as a community right now. And the 7 of you were elected and entrusted to do that. The last thing I'll say is it's a shame, given the importance of this vote, that members of the administration were not here. And while many of you, probably agree with them not being here, I would hope that we would ask better of our administration as well. I'm appalled that the mayor's not here. I'm appalled that members of the administration aren't here. That's how you play offense. That's how you be present for the community. That's how you engage the community. That's how you listen to the community. And that's how you make better decisions and move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you. First-time speakers. First-time speakers. Gentleman in the back.
Dr. Nasser, Pleasant Avenue. Usually I use paper and pen, but my pen gave up on me tonight. The whole reason that I feel like the public had an issue with the Suez deal was because there was misinformation and there was lack of information amongst other things. At the many Suez meetings that I attended, they asked us to email questions that were not at that time revealed for the answers that we needed. So one of the questions that I emailed was about the concessions. I was told that part of the concessions is to make a community center and various other projects. Prior to the elections, I asked the council members, and I ran out of time, and that's the reason also I'm writing this down, what were your thoughts about the Suez and the public speaking and what people have said. And the council went on for like maybe 10 minutes, and I asked a 30-second question. I said, please let me continue to ask questions. And Ajay and Joe were the only ones that cited detailed things that people said at the Suez meetings. They were the only ones to officially said they would vote Suez down. The other council members said that they were unsure of how to vote at that time. Now, that was maybe early. That was maybe March or something like that. During the election, there were flyers that said the team of Ajay, Coyle, Ship, and Brescher wanted to stop building the community center. Again, the community center was part of the Suez deal. You can infer which people then were for the Suez deal but would not take a stance at the time. I signed a petition and circulated the petition on the grounds that the sewer deal is a sewer deal, and it should not be a water deal. Maybe they're tied together, but water should be water, sewer should be sewer, and community center didn't make sense that that should be part of it. I also rejected and offended that, I don't remember who it was at the time, there was one council member, and again, I told you I circulated the petition. They said that the people that were sending the petition misled people about lead and things like that. While I circulated, there were a lot of people that didn't understand what Suez was. They had no idea. I don't know how they didn't know, to be fair, because there was robocalls, there were papers in the mail, but somehow, as you can see, even tonight, people did not know. So when I talk to people, I never force them to sign the petition. I spent a long time talking to them about the Suez deal. Most of the people had no idea what I was talking about, but they did then understand what the significance of a deal was. So what this tells me is that somehow our government failed. If tonight people are saying still that they do not know what the Suez deal is, we need to do a better job in letting the public know what's going on. Lastly, I have a question about the petition says that we have to have a special election. I was hearing at the back there are some people saying that that's the only way that it could happen, that it could not happen during the general election. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to just end it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. First-time speakers. Mr. Romero.
Council members, Junior Romero. I just wanted to thank Councilman Coyle, Joshi, and Patil for voting with what the Committee of Petitioners supported, this initiative and the close to 5,000 people that signed the petition. The Faulkner Act, I think, is a beautiful thing when representative democracy is not in tune with what the public is supporting. You can get a committee of petitioners, residents from Edison Township, and they will go and get thousands more signatures. And the reason they got the close to 5,000 signatures is to show the urgency of this issue, the urgency of why they wanted to maintain the sewer system in public control at the same time that some on this council and the administration were considering fast-tracking the Suez privatization scheme of the sewer and water system. They wanted to show the urgency by getting all those signatures, exceeding one threshold and getting the close to 5,000. The Faulkner Act, again, is a beautiful thing because it first gives the council the opportunity to show that representative democracy still works. Obviously, today it did not work. A majority of this council voted against the will of what will probably be a majority of those that come out to vote in the special election. Make no mistake that we will get voters out to vote. And the initiative will be passed at the ballot. Some on this council have now wasted $100,000 that could go towards repairs, the much needed repairs that some on this council and the administration say is in disarray at the on the sewer system. I do want to say that Food and Water Watch, the organization that I represent, is a nonprofit. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. At least one council member said that this issue is politically motivated. It was not politically motivated for us. In fact, we're prohibited by law in intertwining political motivation with issue advocacy like this. We truly do believe that publicly owned water systems, publicly owned sewer systems are better for ratepayers, they're better for democracy. Their local control is what 90% of municipalities around this country have with their water and sewer systems. New Jersey, unfortunately, has been bombarded with privatization over the last years, and some representative democracies, apparently like this body, believe that privatization is the best choice, and it is not. So I hope some on this council will change their mind by the time of the special election, and as a singular individual vote yes. But for those behind me, I urge you all, we're going to need to get out to vote on September 10th. You know the date. Reach out to me, reach out to Anthony if you want to knock some doors and get out the vote. We're going to need to get everyone out to vote. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? First time or rebuttal? Rebuttal, okay. Oh, we got a first time speaker. Ms. Conway, one moment, please. Just allow the first time speaker.
Good evening. Fred Sasson, Coster Boulevard. Thank you everyone for coming out on both sides. I don't have much to say on this except if this does not go for a vote by the people, everyone on this side of the counter who has gone against the people, 5,000 petitioners signed saying, hey, this is an issue. It needs more attention. Each and every one of you have failed the people. There's no question about it. You represent us. That's your job. Your job is to also make decisions that we may not see. But when we raise an issue saying, hey, this can't be right, there's a problem, Doesn't mean it is a problem, but it means more time should be put into it. More thought, more consideration, more feedback from the public, who you represent, who is going to carry the burden of the additional costs. Whether it's an extra $50 or an extra $200. I have a 6-month-old at home. If I have to pay an extra $50, that's 2 bags of diapers I can't buy because I have to pay this extra money. Everyone here has things that they have to address in their households. The young lady with the health issue, that's something else that you all may not be facing as individuals, but in the households of those that you represent, that's what we're facing. If you do not allow this to be voted on by the people who you represent, you have failed each and every one of them. I'm going to leave it at that, but I really strongly hope that you all will reconsider. Just blank out everything that you've already come to a conclusion on and think about the process all over again and consider the people that you represent. Thank you.
Thank you. First time speakers.
Carol Badowski, 39 Jonathan Drive. I just want to clarify to be sure I understood or understand what went on tonight. The 7 of you voted that this should be put to the people in an election, a special election. Therefore, you have given up your vote on it so that the people's will is represented. So when the people vote for it to happen or not happen, you will not be changing it. And since you voted to hold the election, you will be holding the election. Am I correct?
That is.
Yeah, there's, the election has to be held, and there is an inability, statutory inability to change the ordinance. So the ordinance can't be passed by a vote of the people, and 3 weeks later, this council introduced another ordinance to overturn the whole thing. That
Right.
can't happen.
Okay.
Law prevents that.
So it is delayed, but if the will of the people of the town is for it to be passed or defeated, that's what will happen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Whatever the vote is what will be the rule.
Okay, so
essentially.
the people who voted in favor of moving it to the election, to hold the election and not approve it tonight, actually have given up their right to make the decision, giving it back to the people. The people who voted to accept the petitions and vote yes also are voting for the will of the people. So I just want to make sure I understand that. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Crown. Go ahead.
Somebody else raise their hand.
Yeah, I think you can speak.
It's freezing in here. Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I just want to say one thing. I am thrilled at what's happening. And the reason for that starts with what Mr. Lombardi had to say. People signed the petition, and they were the voices of the community. Now, initially, when the petition came out, I figured, how many people are actually going to sign this petition? Yes, we had a number of people that worked very hard, but that usually doesn't make a difference. But this time it did. 1,000 people weren't the voices of our community. You had almost 5,000 people. I had phone calls, and I wasn't one of them running door to door. But I took a number of phone calls from people that had nothing to do, would never come to a meeting, never pick up a newspaper and know what was going on in this town, that were calling me because they were concerned. And I would relay to them where you can go today. I didn't pick them up. I didn't go to their houses. They came to the places that day or that week and put themselves forward. And as more and more people were signing, I got more and more excited because I've been going to town meetings and board meetings. And there's usually, lucky if we have a dozen people. But this time, people came out and said what they thought. They did not want 4 of you to make that decision. But in essence, they really wanted to have their voice stated. And having 5,000 people come out, knowing what we normally have at a special election, that is a majority of the number of people that normally come out. So are we truly wasting more time to make arrangements in January? Is that what you truly are doing? Because are those same 5,000 people going to be the ones that come out? Or are you going to have 2,000 or 3,000 more people come out? And we're spending money to have the same response. And in response to another thing that took place tonight, which, again, I was ecstatic and happy about, people are upset. People that you wouldn't normally see at these meetings are screaming. They're angry. My 6 minutes are up.
So rebuttal is 3 minutes.
But they're screaming because they're excited. They're getting involved. And at the same time, they're afraid. So think long and hard. People are coming out because they're afraid of their community going in a wrong direction.
Thank you.
Anthony Diaron, 15 Rhodex Circle. First, I want to thank Councilman Lombardi for his service, years of service, 7 years. I appreciate it. At least we didn't always agree, but I definitely appreciate it. I really do find it appalling, though, and so irresponsible that there was no Plan B. There never was a Plan B. The problem is that the administration got caught with its pants down. Let's just be honest, because I'm tired of the same type of false narrative that's always put out to us all the time. And I think Brett brought this up, where we kind of play always defense. So we're never on offense at all. And we kind of just figure it out as we go along. That's not the way you run a business at all. And this is the way you got to treat it like it's a business. I mean, businesses fail because of that type of irresponsibility. There should have been a Plan B, a C, a D, an F. That's how big this issue was. There was none of that. You couldn't even tell me off the top of your head what was the first couple points of a Plan B, because there never was one. And honestly, I find it disrespectful that you put it almost on the petitioners to come up with a Plan B. That's the way it kind of feels right now. And I guarantee you this, if I wasn't so busy getting over 3,000 signatures, I would have had a Plan B. I would have done it for you. But that's just the way it is. So, I mean, the idea that there was something, there never was any. I'm not going to get fooled. I don't think the people of Edison are fooled. And this administration really needs to get their act together. It really does, big time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to quote Councilman Joshi's point again. The purpose of the process was to allow us to get to planning stages of how this was going to go. But again, we'll move on.
And you know what? In addition to that, I think that honestly, at this point, everyone is valid in what they're saying. And Ms. Conway, you're right. It's exciting to know that people are energized, because when I was looking at the voter turnouts and what 5,000 people represented, you know, we want more, obviously, but democracy itself only works when people take part in its process. And what you guys are doing right, what everyone is doing right now, it was just so people know, it was several hundred, about 700 Republicans, about 2,000 Democrats, and the rest were unaffiliated. So it was an effort by everyone, but everyone is taking part in it, and that's what you should continue doing. So that's why you should continue to come and pay attention to what's going on, so then we can be a part of this democratic process.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
close the public portion.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting stands adjourned.